good morning to you, Grenada and the rest of the world. Yes, sirree, we have come to the end of another month. Goodbye, March, and thank you for everything that you brought our way during the past 31 days. Nice of you. Folks, gonna be a good program this morning. Gonna be a good program. I see that out there on Rumble Chat. Yeah, they're awake already on Rumble Chat. Kipling Francis is sending God's blessings to everyone, and I have a message here from Mr. OP. Yeah, OP says, good morning, George, and a very big thank you for remembering to check us out on Rumble Chat. I must say that Facebook gets most of your attention for noting comments. However, we appreciate it when you remember us on Rumble Chat. Do have a great week all. Well, OP, not only did I remember you guys on Rumble Chat this morning, but have actually begun with Rumble Chat this morning. Let's see who else is there. We Will Rise is saying good morning and wishing us all a productive day. That's on Rumble Chat this morning. And Always Listening is saying good morning from Washington. Hello. Always Listening. Is the Don sitting next to you? Huh? Doesn't really matter. Doesn't. And over here, LMA Jackson on Facebook is saying good morning as well. Hello, LMA. Nice to see you, girl. So is Ryan out there in Orlando and Grenada Sunshine. Everybody's saying good morning. And boy, let me tell you, we do have a beautiful morning here in the Spice Hog. Now, let's take a look at the rundown and see what's cooking here for the next 3 hours. Hey, Margaret. Happy Sunday to you, Margaret. I love those sunglasses, girl. Folks, we have 2 editorials for you today. The Grenada Advocate is captioned, Time to address the LIAT situation. Grenada Advocate, for how long have we been addressing the LIAT situation? Anyhow, I understand where you guys are coming from. The new today is captioned, Health and Crisis. Boy, this week there have been some horror stories. This past week there have been some horror stories out there about the healthcare system in Grenada. And I imagine that throughout the course of the morning we're going to be touching a little bit on that. Also, already I see Mr. Johncrow. Johncrow is going to be joining us from New York in just a wee bit. Anyhow, before we get to Mr. Johncrow, we've got a couple of interviews for you. One of them was actually pre-recorded this past week. It is captioned, Government in the Doghouse. Gemma Bain-Thomas to be paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my guest, the lady herself, Gemma Bain-Thomas, she's a former cabinet secretary, and I'm sure that you have not forgotten the big brouhaha a couple of years ago. This goes back a few years. But seems to be winding down. At least that's assuming that she's going to get the money she's owed. We had an interesting half-hour chat with her this past week, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. We're actually going to, after the editorials, we'll begin with Gemma Bain-Thomas. The other interview we have is the one with Mr. Johncrow, who's already online there this morning. It's captioned, Grenada's diaspora in New York, still as loyal as ever. Yeah. You know, those of us here at home rely very heavily on various forms of assistance from Grenadians living out there in the diaspora. And despite the hassles they sometimes have helping us, let me tell you, they remain loyal. And this morning we're going to be talking with someone who is actually currently engaged in a process which we'll see some more great assistance coming to Grenada, including our health sector, a little later on this morning when we get to him. Okay? Our main feature. Our main feature. The Caribbean ventures into digital currency. Gemma. I have a couple of pieces this morning from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. They do a weekly program called ECCB Connects. And I'm going to run two of those for you this morning as they try to explain to the people of the Caribbean what is this digital currency all about. You know, sometimes you hear it referred to as cryptocurrency. Well, they're referring to it as digital currency. And you're going to see a young lady by the name of Karina Phillips-Somersall. She's the Corporate Relations Officer with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. And I do hope that those two pieces will be very informative and help to educate you in the process. It's something we're going to have to come to grips with. No running and hiding, no ducking, no ducking. Yeah, digital currency is going to be a reality. In many places, it's already a reality. Now it's our turn here in the Caribbean. So, I also went out yesterday afternoon, did a little shooting. We had a cruise ship in town yesterday. Did a little shooting because I just wanted to include that in a piece that I want to do about the Grenada Tourism Authority this morning. Okay? So we're going to try and squeeze that in somewhere. I know we're jammed. We're jammed. We also had some other people wanting to get on here this morning. Couldn't. Busy morning here. So let's take a... Okay. Hold on a sec. Let's, before we take our first little break, let's get back here to Facebook. Peter Bishop is in Long Island. He's back in Long Island. The wind's been blowing east, hasn't it? Shabba Regis saying, good morning, George. Hope you have a great day. Remember Mother's Day today in England. Me, no talk about Mother's Day down here, so I guess it's just England. Lydia, hello, Lydia. She says, snowing for so here in Canada. Oh, Lydia. Sorry to hear that, my dear, but beautiful morning down here. Beautiful morning. And Fitzroy Adams is also checking in from the Big Apple. Folks, nice to have you along. Spread the word, share, like, whatever it is you do on Facebook, yeah? Or remind folks that they can check us out later on this afternoon on YouTube as well. So, here comes our first little break. And then we'll get right into today's edition of The Buzz.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harvey Vale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts. And in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton Home.
Welcome home. Cafe chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com,
As you walk from the Harveyville playing field,
Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Well, my dear friends, so far this morning, a lot of people out there on the box this morning. Glenn Andrew Mark is saying happy Sunday to all of us, and Bernard Gilbert's also there with us this morning. Nice to see you all, folks. Now, there he is, Mr. Johncrow. Man, Mr. Crow, how are you, sir? I can't hear you, but I can tell it's sunny. It must be sunny in New York. I see a lot of sunshine coming in on the right side of your face there. Looking bright as ever. Good to see you, sir. We're going to get to you a little later on this morning. Okay, now, let's get to today's edition of The Buzz. I'm going to switch things around a little bit this morning. We're going to do Little Angel first. Little Angel, thank you for chiming in this morning. Always appreciate it. She says this week, in addition to what was already derived from the sharing of Mr. Dennis Charles when he spoke of the atrocities of the Revolution, there is much to be learnt from the appearance of Mr. Hewitt Lane on last Sunday's edition of SWGG. Obviously, Mr. Lane will be despised by some and welcomed by others, but not because he was accommodated meant that there was support for any wrongdoings in the past. There is no other way to seek the truth than to allow those who know it to tell it. Anyone who is willing to talk at this late stage should be encouraged, and the way in which GrenadaBroadcast.com is doing it is commendable. Finding the truth, healing, and reconciling are important to the Grenadian people, and whatever process which seems to have been started should not be forced to stop. Opposing views such as that of Mr. Fitzroy Lewison are to be expected and normal, and they form part of the process. The fact is, the revolution took place, and it is absolutely necessary to understand the events surrounding it, learn from the mistakes, avoid a repeat of them, and move on. Mr. Lane made this clear when, on more than one occasion in his sharing, he used the words, and I quote, "We should not throw out the baby with the bathwater," unquote. He was also right in recognizing the need for dialogue. Without dialogue, there will be little progress in moving the nation to its next stage. Mr. Lane highlighted the importance of the Constitution, his firm belief in the need for checks and balances, admitting that it was due to a lack of it which caused the demise of the revolution. Hold on a sec here. Yeah. He also indicated that Grenada has a profound problem with resolving conflicts, which is evident in the island's history and may have hit us in the face in October of 1983, when the necessary checks and balances were absent. In the mind of Mr. Lane, there should not, in the mind of Mr. Lane, there should not be a concentration of power in any one hand or any one group. Instead, power ought to be distributed within any system of governance, civilization, or society. He also referred to the fanatic supporters of Gary, the power of propaganda, and claimed that he understood the need for people to vent. Mr. Lane also spoke soberly about his maturity in understanding that individual rights must never be compromised. He disclosed his respect for history and putting it into context. He said that however difficult it might be, Grenada should embrace its history and find ways of resolving issues. Concerns about dictatorship and the introduction of communism during the revolution were also raised by Mr. Lane. And today it will be interesting to know whether Grenadians are still concerned about these two things. It will also be interesting to know how many people are aware of the similarities between the past and present experiences in Grenada and the possibilities that the island may be repeating its history. Grenadians should pay attention to what has been shared so far and be prepared to learn from it. To do so will be difficult for some individuals, but the alternative of ignoring the past and being antagonistic towards it will have the dire consequence of repeating the same mistakes which should be avoided at all costs. Okay. That's Little Angel's contribution this morning. Way to go, girl. Thank you very much. Now, I said we were changing things around a little bit. Yeah, we are, because here comes our opening scripture now. Okay? It's a quote from Ephesians chapter 1, verses 15 to 21. For this reason, ever since I heard about your faith in the Lord Jesus and your love for all of God's people, I have not stopped giving thanks for you, remembering you in all my prayers. I keep asking that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the glorious Father, may give you the spirit of wisdom and revelation, so that you may know him better. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened, in order that you may know the hope to which he has called you, the riches of his glorious inheritance in his holy people, and his incomparably great power for us who believe. That power is the same as the mighty strength he exerted when he raised Christ from the dead and seated him at his right hand in the heavenly realms, far above all rule and authority, power and dominion, and every name that is invoked, not only in the present age, but also in the one to come. Pilgrims, that reading, just in case you wish to check it out, comes to you, or came to you, from Ephesians chapter 1, verses 15 to 21. All right? So, back here now to social media. Esther Morgan saying good morning. Hello, Nesta. Nesta's out there in Zurich. Wishing you guys a beautiful and blessed Sunday. Cheryl Caliste is with us. Good morning, Gigi and family. Well, good morning to you, Cheryl. Osmond is also saying good morning. And Marshall Dollar Lewis. Hello, fella. Looking forward to seeing you again later on this week for the next edition of Woke. By the way, folks, if you've missed Woke, we've done 1, 2, I think 3 editions so far. Group of youngsters who want their views as youth to be heard in this country. They've been doing a phenomenal job. They're getting some pretty large numbers when we do these programs. I think it's, yeah, Thursday afternoon at Thursday at 4. Yeah, check them out. Who else? Yeah, Michelle Gilbert is also there. All right, folks, let's take another little break here, and then we'll come on back with our editorials.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Conveniently located in the Grandand Shopping Center, for over 40 years, Food Fair has provided quality service at affordable prices. Now, grocery shopping is made easier and more convenient from the Food Fair web store.
Hey, babe. Listen, I need you to go down to Food Fair to get some groceries.
All right, no problem. Right away.
Thanks, babe. What are you doing? You're supposed to be going Food Fair to get a grocery, man.
I am, but didn't you know you can order your groceries online from the Food Fair web store?
Are you serious?
Of course. All you have to do is just to log on to www.foodfair.gd with credit card in hand, and with an order of $100 or more, Food Fair Granadas will deliver up to 3 miles away. And you don't even have to worry about your information, you know. Their safety measures are excellent.
So hold on. You just order online and Food Fair will deliver to you?
Yep.
Oh, baby, better hurry up and order, man.
I already did. They should be here any minute now.
Enjoy easy online shopping anytime from your home or office from the Food Fair web store. Food Fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy. We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Speyside.
Redleg, energizing our Grenada.
Alrighty, 24 minutes after the hour. We have now been joined by Davini Leo saying good morning. Hold on. Davino Leo says, good morning, SGG class. Very interesting start to the program. Politics, one of the systems that divided us as a people. Junior Noel is saying, good morning, George, from beautiful and sunny Carriacou. Good to see you folks there this morning. Anderson Matheson's also saying, good morning. Now, let's begin our editorials with the Grenada Advocate. This appeared in this past Wednesday's edition of the Advocate. It is captioned, Time to Address the LIAT Situation. The cost of regional transportation has again taken center stage in recent times, particularly with the challenges that continue to face regional carrier LIAT, and the decision by the CARICOM heads of government to push more for the free movement of goods and people across the 15-member grouping. But if we are to truly fast-track regional integration and better facilitate intra-regional travel, then transportation must become more affordable. We acknowledge, though, that this will not be an easy task, and admit, too, that getting LIAT to the stage where the region needs it to be, will likely be just as or even more difficult to accomplish. the reality has often been that while the region as a whole has benefited from the airline's operation, few actually contribute directly to its operating costs. That has meant that the extent of its financing has to come from the main shareholders, the governments of Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Barbados. Now, in recent times, there was a proposal on the table for Caribbean countries to contribute to an emergency fund to the tune of just over $5 million to help the airline keep flights in the sky. But hello there. What's going on this morning? Yeah. But those minimal revenue guarantees, or MRG proposals, have not been well received by some. At the same time, however, others have accepted that to lose the service provided by LIAT would damage their economy. But this move should not have come as a surprise to these countries, for this has been touted by the shareholders for some time. It has long been their belief, and it makes sense, that LIAT could be in a far better position financially and perhaps not have to impose such things as high airfares on us if every one of the countries that it serves gave some kind of financial backing to the regional carrier. The principals of the airline have long pointed out that the air carrier could not continue servicing unprofitable routes, and if the countries to which the airline flies do not give some form of support to the company, they could be removed from the list of destinations serviced. But they have never followed through on their threats. So, perhaps it's time that they do. As such, we support any such move, especially hearing from Barbados' Prime Minister, Mia Amor Motley, that there have been some flights that only had 1 or 2 passengers on them. This certainly cannot be allowed to continue. Now, no one can deny that LIAT has had serious issues. Over the years, there has been public outcry about poor customer service, delayed and canceled flights, lost luggage, and the most nagging issue, the overall high cost of airfares to its various destinations due to high fuel costs and heavy taxes imposed by regional governments. But it has been argued that if CARICOM countries serviced by the air carrier provided it with some kind of support, just as it pays marketing costs to overseas air carriers, LIAT's fortunes could actually improve. Instead, what we have seen over the years is several governments being openly critical about the management of the airline, while a handful have been willing to put their money where their mouth is and assist the company in becoming the best that it can be. Going forward, we have to look at ways to make the carrier profitable, and while there is the tendency to want to manage it as a public good, privatization may be the better option. Sacrifices have to be made, for we cannot continue as we are. For as they say, the definition of insanity is repeatedly doing the same thing and expecting different results. We say that because not only is it important to our economies, but LIAT has a major role to play in regional integration. As such, we believe the onus is on the region to work collaboratively to get the operating model right. So says the Grenada advocate. We'll get to the new today, which is captioned Health and Crisis. We'll get to that in just a wee bit. But getting back here, Lincoln Roberts is saying a blessed day to everyone. Hi, Linky. And Tony Ben is saying good morning from South Florida. Arthur Langine, good morning, Brother George. Glad to see you live and hear you after months of not getting your station. I've been missing you. So today the Lord has blessed me. Okay. Thank you very much, Arthur. Good to see you. Stick with us and spread the word as well. Folks, let me take another little break here. And then we'll come on back with the new today. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Margaret says, LIAT is a black hole. It's got to go. That's very succinct, Margaret. Thank you.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts. And in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton home.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
All right. Welcome, Mashida Phillip, saying good morning. I can tell that LIAT obviously ruffled a few. Every time LIAT comes up, it ruffles feathers. I see here that Kipling is saying, why do we expect LIAT to be run without problems? Since when can government run anything without problems? We are just expecting the unexpected. So says Kipling. You know, folks, what's happening with the LIAT right now, I think you need to give some thought to this. Take a look at the big picture with the LIAT. And it's actually, forget about the airline for a minute. This is a reflection of the level of governance we have here in the Caribbean in our quest for good governance. This is just a reflection. How many years have we been sitting year after year after year discussing LIAT, and these guys can't come up with a solution? Hey, come on, man. Ernesto is saying good morning. I'm late today. Hope there's no detention after Education Sunday. Good to see you, Ernesto. Folks, yeah, let's go right into the editorial from the New Today. It is captioned, Health in Crisis. In recent months and weeks, our government has been boasting of 5% growth in the economy, and that Grenada was now the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean. The Keith Mitchell-led new National Party government has been talking about more hotel projects coming on stream, especially in rural parishes such as St. David, which will create a positive impact on unemployment in that area. However, very little is said by the same government about positive steps that should be taken to tackle the terrible healthcare situation on the island, including a hospital service that many describe as one that has deteriorated into a virtual death trap for many of our sick people. The state cannot rely on the private sector to take healthcare forward, but has to be the catalyst itself in providing the best possible health system for its own people. The New Today has seen 2 postings this week on social media that were very shocking in this day and age concerning the death of an individual from the sister isle of Carriacou who was living in the United Kingdom and was on a brief trip home. The woman, identified as Jacqueline Fitzpatrick, fell sick on a ferry that was taking her back to the mainland from the sister isle to catch a flight to take her back home to the UK. This is an edited version from the posting about the incident on the ferry, and I quote, "A woman from the UK with friends, sister, and mother were on the ferry too. But after a while, the woman in front of me became sick, and she vomited. Shortly after that, she passed out. When I saw what was happening, I checked immediately her pulse and state. I quickly realized her critical condition. Luckily, there were 2 other persons with medical knowledge, one of them a doctor from England. We began CPR, but there was no equipment on board. After 1 hour of CPR, a boat from the Coast Guard arrived alongside the ferry with no life-saving equipment. Nothing. I, a young medical student from Cuba, and the lady doctor from the UK continued with CPR while the Coast Guard went back to Grenada at high speed. Our small group tried our best for more than 2 hours under terrible conditions. Finally, we arrived at the ferry port. The ambulance was not there, and we had to continue CPR. The ambulance finally arrived, and we got the woman to the hospital. The ambulance team was completely overwhelmed and also equipped with nothing. No AED, suction cup, intubation. When we finally arrived at the hospital, nobody was informed about this patient, and no other doctor was present. In conclusion, the woman died. The time from the ferry to the hospital was too long, and the hospital is not equipped for such an emergency. Unquote. The above clearly speaks for itself about our healthcare system. But the following response from another person on social media should give a rude awakening to those in authority that many persons are not happy with the attention that is being given to the health of the nation. The following is that response. Again, I quote, "Yet another sad chapter in Grenada's collapsing health system. A week ago, I attended the funeral service of the late Joseph Latouche, who was involved in an accident on January 19th, suffering injuries to his neck and spine, along with broken ribs and other injuries. According to his relatives who spoke at the funeral, his 40-plus days at the hospital were days of unbearable misery. Our hospital was lacking both equipment and personnel to deal with his complications. Yet, our government plans to light a cricket stadium costing $10 million. And the question is, how stupid are we as a people?" Unquote. The only two words that the New Today can find to describe the current situation is quite shocking. It is sad that those who have been in charge of the affairs of Grenada since the end of the reign of Eric Gairy and his Labour Party government, and the People's Revolutionary Government, PRG, of the late Maurice Bishop, have failed to build upon the foundation that was put in train by these two leaders for a proper health system in the country. Gairy brought in the St. George's University through an act of Parliament in 1976, and Bishop's government was able to send a number of Grenadians on scholarships granted by Cuba to qualify in the area of health, especially to become doctors and dentists. The leaders who have been in charge of Grenada since the days of Gairy and Bishop have lacked the vision to get SGU to build a modern and well-equipped hospital that can not only take care of the health needs of our people, but to make health tourism another important aspect of Grenada's economy. What percentage of the so-called 5% growth in the economy is accredited to the health sector? The Ministry of Health is clearly in disarray under the current line minister, Nicholas Steele, who seemingly does not have a clue about how to fix the problem. Many health professionals in the country have identified former Senator Anne David Antoine as the best health minister ever appointed by the NNP in government, and it might not be too late to bring her back to attempt a rescue mission in health. The New Today is contending that given the dismal health situation in the country, our economy will not be able to attract those wealthy Grenadians in North America and Europe who have made good money want to return home to invest, but are reluctant to do so due to the terrible healthcare conditions on the island. Why would they take the risk when some of the very leaders in Grenada continue to pay lip service to the health sector, but unknown to the population, make secret visits to clinics as far away as Paris, France, to take care of themselves? The talk by government about moving in the direction of sports tourism will not go far, as athletes need proper health care facilities to take care of their injuries. Like King Scholars said in a song many years ago, and I quote, "We need a hospital for our hospital." That, folks, is the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition on Friday, the New Today. All right, and that's going to take care of this morning's editorial content. Now, while I was reading there, you guys, oh boy, you guys are busy this morning. Let me see here. Let me get back here to Facebook for a minute. Margaret says, Kipling, that's the elephant in the room that none of these governments will address. Tell them to reduce the ridiculously high taxes. Stop giving their friends free rides. Hold LIAT's board accountable. And get competent people who know the airline business to manage it. Better yet, do LIAT the same thing that TNT did to CAL. I guess it's Caribbean Airlines. CAL is now profitable for the first time because it has to fend for itself. No government support. Thank you, Margaret. I know you're keeping an eye on things. Lydia James says, cowtail growth, growing from the top and dwindling to the bottom. Let's see here. Esther Morgan says, no trained professionals. Dog and pigpen hospital system. Yeah. Arthur Langine says, the Coast Guard thought they were going to get weed. Arthur. Esther Morgan says, Arthur, you're too bad. Yes, Esther, I agree with you. And she also goes on to say, backward ever, forward never. Jackie O says, no excuse. The economy is more important than the citizens of the country. Shame. Peter Bishop says, God help my fellow citizens of Carriacou. It will happen again. And the sad reality is that nothing will change because the majority will continue to vote for a bunch of misfits to govern her, who are not interested in doing anything to rectify the problem with our healthcare system. Folks, do me a favor. Please, take your time. Take your time when posting. I don't always have time to pre-read this stuff, okay? But I'm so anxious to let you have your say. But you screw me royally when you make these careless mistakes. Take your time, please, please. I want you to have your say. But don't make me look like an idiot, okay? Thank you. Anthony DeRiggs says, people with money in Grenada will always jump on a plane and head for the USA, Canada, or England when they get sick. It is the poor people who will continue to suffer. Yes, Anthony, hear you loud and clear, my friend. And Janice Farry says, abysmal, I say. It continues. The unfortunate stories and experiences continue. Priorities are terribly displaced. Bernard Gilbert says, the fiscal space allows for money to do all other things, but not health care. Grenadians need to pay attention to themselves. Aisha O'Blair Charles says, George, greetings from Petty Martinique. I also find it quite ludicrous that the government wants to spend $10 million to light a stadium when there isn't an X-ray or ultrasound machine at the Princess Royal Hospital for we, the citizens of Petty Martinique and Carriacou, to utilize at our advantage. This is pure madness. It's regression instead of progression. Aisha, I couldn't have said it better. Elton Sylvester says, good morning to you, George and all. You're expecting guests and all those wonderful listeners at home and the listeners all over the diaspora. Thank you for the editorial news. Shame the world is hearing that sad news. Elton, sometimes it hurts me, knowing the sort of audience that I have globally. It hurts me to sit here and share some of these things, you know, but they are the reality. I have to be honest. Ernesto says, I'm here listening and not surprised a bit. My condolences to that family and their loss. Renewed Purpose says, good morning, George. Our people are not matured politically and are divided. Hence the reason we see so much mismanagement and lack of accountability. This government will continue to kick itself in the groin. Have to be pretty I can't find the word. I can't find the word to describe what I want to say. Oy, oy, oy. Margaret says, Anthony, very true. Those with the means quickly jump on the plane. But you and I know that sometimes even money won't help, because the nature of the severity of the illness will not allow them to board a flight. And the reality is, they will have to be taken to that hospital. Kind of sad, eh? Sad. Loxley Bowen says, that is caring for the poor and vulnerable. Yeah, those buzzwords, caring for the poor and vulnerable, Loxley. You know, but we allow it. We allow it. Lydia James says, pure madness in pure Grenada. Yeah. Speaking about pure Grenada, I'm hoping that next week I'll be able to bring you a little feature. A couple of days ago, I put something up on the website. I think I put about 11 photographs up on the website about the state of Mount Hartman. Remember? The site that was supposed to be where Grenada's largest hotel was going to be located, and how much this was going to mean to our economy, etc., etc. Take a look, folks. Go to the website, take a look, and you'll see the condition of Mount Hartman today. Not only is that bad, what I think is even worse is that after we heard all the flag waving and brouhaha, we have not heard anything since about the status of that project. Loxley Bowen says he's listening in Barbados. Kipling says the party that had the plan of building a new well-equipped hospital was rejected for oil money. So says Kipling. And I think here, Benedict Cador says, how long does the government think tourism will grow when the tourists realize that in an emergency they cannot get health care? You're a thinking man, Benedict. Thank you for raising that point. Okay, now let me. Oh, hey, there's nobody. Hold on a minute. On Rumble Chat. Okay, on Rumble Chat. Mary Campbell is saying good morning on Rumble Chat. Opie says wake. Opie, oh God, I tired, Beck. Opie, I don't understand what you're saying there. Anyhow. Dennis is saying, good morning, George and class. It's a lovely morning here in Carriacou. Well, good for you, fella. And Tessa Barry is saying, good morning, George. Good morning, all. Blessed Sunday and a wonderful week ahead. Okay, pilgrims. Back here now to social media. Hold on. Yeah, Lincoln Roberts says, if the government or any organization receives a grant for a specific project, that money has to be used for that project only, or the money has to be returned. You can't use a grant for lighting up the stadium for any other purpose. Try to get a grant for the hospital. Thank you, Lincoln. Fitzroy says, give me a t-shirt and $50 in an envelope, and I will forget what. Lydia James says, maybe Mount Hartman is on the investigation list too. Funny, Lydia. Ernesto says, did I hear the minister was on board and made the call to the Coast Guard? I would like to hear what that conversation was that she had with the Coast Guard. Vincent Ignatius Roberts says, even much worse is the attitude of the government. There should be an investigation into Charles Liu and his relationship with government officials. Vincent, the first sentence hit the nail on the head. Even much worse is the attitude of the government. Vincent, none of us, not one of us is perfect, okay? We all make mistakes. But when you have this belligerent, arrogant attitude towards your constituents, that is what hurts, my friend. That is what hurts. Know-it-alls. Finally, Lori Bridgman says, good morning, Grenada. We don't even have a helicopter, but we're dumping money into LIAT. I would like to know who's the shareholder. Oh, Lori. Okay. Break time, folks, and then we'll come on back with Gemma Bain-Thomas right after this.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts, and in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton home.
Welcome home.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy. We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Speyside.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Okie doke, let's see here now. It's 1 minute after 10 o'clock, and Patricia St. Paul Williams is watching and carefully listening. Thank you, Patricia. We'd love to hear from you. Sharon says, George and family, good morning once again. I must try to explain to the people who are saying that the money for lighting the stadium should be used for the hospital. If the money was taxpayers' money, I would be the first person to agree with that sentiment. However, money given to light the stadium by a foreign government must be used for such or be given back. As it is, they seem to have used that money. Have to repay it. The question that should be asked is, where is the money given by Canada to light the stadium? Anthony DeRiggs, thank you, Sharon, thinking girl. Anthony DeRiggs says, just like the pre-election announcement about oil, the government might wait to announce improvement in health care before the next election. And the musicians will sing, and the people will whine. Okay, Anthony, okay, yeah. Pilgrims, I'm not going to spend much time doing it. Hold on a sec here. Esther Morgan says, Grenadians, take heed. People need to wake up and smell the coffee. You can't always party when individuals put money in the T-shirts and give you fool's rum to drink. The party done. You all are so silly and dumb. Stop the selling of all that alcohol. Grenada is the land of gimme. You know something, Esther? I'm sure that Anthony would agree with you about stop selling all that alcohol. Good morning, McMahon. Benedict Cador says, then give it back and ask back for it to fix health care. Yeah, I was about to say here, folks, I'm not going to give you much of an introduction to this little piece we're about to hear from Gemma Bain-Thomas. Gemma was dismissed a few years ago. She was the cabinet secretary. Apparently, she and the Prime Minister really didn't hit it off, and she was actually not dismissed. She was removed from her position as the cabinet secretary and placed in another position, which in the end resulted in a lawsuit. And then she got well over $600,000. She won that lawsuit. And now, just this past week, she's picked up another $75,000. So this lady probably has about $750,000 that are due to her. I don't know if she's going to hold her breath. But listen to this interview. Alrighty, folks. If you take a look there, I'm sure that's a face that many of you recognize. Gemma Bain-Thomas. Gemma Bain-Thomas, she's been with us on this program a number of times in the past, and that's because she's been at odds with our government, or let's put it this way, her government has been at odds with her. As you're about to find out, being at odds is costing our government a nice chunk of money. To begin, I want Gemma, first of all, Gemma, good to see you again. It's been a little while.
That's true. Afternoon, George. It's nice seeing you again.
And I want you to begin with a bit of a chronology. You know, your name's been around in the news a lot over the past few years. But for the people who have not been following this too closely, I want you to spend a few minutes trying to get us to the point we're at right now. Let's start with, you were working as a cabinet secretary with the government of Grenada. When did you start with as a cabinet secretary, and for how long did you?
I started as a cabinet secretary in September 2009. Prior to that, I served as a permanent secretary from 2002. And before that, from 1990, I served as a senior administrative officer in the Public Service Commission, the Ministry of Health, and various other ministries. So I have been in the public service for almost 30 years.
30 years? And you don't look a day over 19. Okay. That's that's going to take care of that. Now, Gemma, something obviously went wrong. Did you, I mean, during your time with the public service, did you ever sort of have any run-ins with the Prime Minister? Could you guys, for some reason or another, not get along? Well,
I wouldn't say so. I was appointed as a permanent secretary by the current Prime Minister. In 1995, when the current Prime Minister became the Prime Minister of Grenada, I was working in the office of the Public Service Commission. And so my ascendancy to the level of permanent secretary was under his watch. The government changed in 2008, and I was still a permanent secretary. In 2009, I was appointed as the cabinet secretary, and then in 2013, for whatever reason, I was declared persona non grata, you know.
As a permanent secretary?
Not as a permanent secretary, in the sense that the re-elected Prime Minister felt that he needed persons who he was more comfortable with within that space in the government.
Okay, let's get specific here. Dr. Mitchell wanted somebody he would be more comfortable with as a permanent secretary.
As the cabinet secretary.
As a cabinet secretary.
Yeah, after the election in February 2013, sorry, I was called to a meeting at the Prime Minister's residence at Happy Hill. At that meeting, there were 3 other permanent secretaries, the Prime Minister and myself, and we basically, I basically updated him on cabinet matters that we were handling, because it was a new government at that point in time. And the conclusion of the meeting, he indicated to me that it's a new administration and he wanted to be comfortable with the persons holding senior positions.
Did he give you any sort of indication why he may have been uncomfortable?
No.
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 All right. And when you were so advised, was that done in the presence of the other PSs?
No, it wasn't in the presence of the other PSs. When the meeting concluded, he asked the other 3 PSs to leave, and he spoke to me by myself.
Okay, great.
And he also would have spoken to the then chairperson of the Public Service Commission, because later that day, she telephoned me to say we needed to have a conversation. And the following day, we met, and she said that she would need to look for an assignment for me.
Okay.
And about 4 days later, I received a letter from the Public Service Commission where they granted me 14 working days leave of absence.
From your post as?
From the post as cabinet secretary.
Right.
And within that time, I was expected to prepare terms of reference for an assignment.
Well, you had to prepare the terms of
Yes,
reference for
they
an
asked.
assignment.
Yes, they asked that I prepare the terms of reference. I responded and said I did not think I should be preparing the terms of reference, that it should be prepared and given to me. So at that time, I would have remained on administrative leave for the months of March, April, and May. And then in June of that year, I was assigned to the Department of Public Administration as Director of Public Sector Reform Initiatives. And from there on, we just went downhill. I indicated to the chairperson of the Public Service Commission that my assignment was to a lower post.
Right, I was just going to ask you that. Good.
Right.
Okay.
And my understanding of an assignment is that you remain in your substantive post, but you're assigned to do a particular function or duty for a period of time. But things came to a head when in November of 2013, I was informed after a management team meeting by the Prime Minister that he had a report that I was leaking information from his management team meetings. And I asked that the allegation be substantiated. He indicated that he had no smoking gun, but when you get these kind of report, it makes you concerned. And so he suggested that I should stop coming to the management team meetings. And at that time, I was also doing a master's program with SGU, that I should take some study leave and so forth. To fast forward, in February of 2014, the Public Service Commission would have sent me a letter. Well, I got two letters. One from the personal assistant to the Governor General and one from the Chief Personnel Officer. The letter from the personal assistant to the Governor General said that the Governor General was transferring me to hold another post in grade M to be determined by the Public Service Commission. And then the letter from the Public Service Commission appointed me to the post of Executive Director in the Anti-Money Laundering Commission. So we determined that the fact that the Governor General transferred me to no specific post meant that I was removed or retired from the public service. And that was the basis of our legal arguments.
So you smelt a rat.
Yeah.
You smelt a rat.
Well, having worked in the public service, I worked in the Public Service Commission. I've been a senior public officer. I understand what is a transfer. And permanent secretaries are transferred to other permanent secretary posts. At the level of the Secretary to the Cabinet, you cannot move from a particular post to an ordinary post in the public service unless you have been retired from the first post and given a new appointment. So that was our conviction. And so we challenged it, saying that the transfer was in contravention of Section 85(2) of the Constitution of Grenada, where it says that appointment, transfer, removal of particular officers will be by the Governor General on the advice of the Public Service Commission. And so we said that these two letters did not constitute a transfer by the Governor General on the advice of the PSC, but a removal by the Governor General and an appointment to a new post by the Public Service Commission.
All right. Now, let's move into the courtroom. What's the case specifically that you took to the courtroom against the government of Grenada?
Specifically, we argued that the government contravened Section 85(2) of the Constitution in transferring me from a particular office post of Secretary to Cabinet to an unestablished post created by an act of Parliament, but not a post in the public service.
Okay. Let's talk about how that case went.
So, at the High Court, the first instance judge, he agreed that there was a contravention of the Constitution. His analysis was that the Governor General had to be advised by the Public Service Commission, and the Governor General had to make the appointment. And that did not happen in my case. The High Court judge found himself in a dilemma. There was a case out of St. Vincent, Felix da Silva versus the Attorney General of St. Vincent, where the then acting Chief Justice, Sir Dennis Byron, in a similar case as mine, had ruled that the public officer was properly transferred. And so the judge felt that he was bound by that decision. So having ruled that the transfer was unconstitutional, but being bound by that decision, he gave an inconsistent conclusion and said that the net effect is that I'm on assignment as the Executive Director of the Anti-Money Laundering Commission. So I was still the Secretary of the Cabinet, but on assignment.
Okay.
We said that this is an inconsistent judgment, and that was the basis of us going to the Court of Appeal.
Okay.
So at the Court of Appeal, we argued that the judge was not bound by the Da Silva judgment because the facts in the two cases was distinguishable, and that the judge had in fact made the distinction. That was our argument at Court of Appeal. The state's argument was that the cases were not distinguishable. The judge was bound to follow Felix da Silva, and that the two letters that were issued equated to one transaction, resulting in my lawful removal from the post of Secretary of the Cabinet and appointment as Executive Director. So the Court of Appeal ruled against the government. The Court of Appeal went on to overturn the Da Silva case because it said it was wrongly ruled on.
Okay. And as a result, compensation was due out of this.
So the Court of Appeal, just to backtrack a little,
sure.
We had also argued that I was compulsory retired based on Section 84(8) of the Constitution of Grenada. And when you are retired under 84(8) of the Constitution, you are to be paid your benefits as if you have attained the compulsory retirement age of 60. At the High Court, the judge said that 84(8) did not apply to my situation because the post I occupied was a post created by the Constitution, which could only be abolished by a referendum on the Constitution. So when we went to Court of Appeal, the Court of Appeal agreed that Section 84(8) did not apply to my case. And so they say I was removed from office in an unconstitutional manner, and so we should agree on damages.
Okay, and the damages were?
The damages were based on a case from St. Kitts. Your emoluments until you reach compulsory retirement age, your gratuity and pension on attaining the compulsory retirement age, and vindicatory or general damages.
Okay, and I would imagine that that did add up to a substantial amount.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that?
Well, we did come to an agreement with the government on the special damages, the emoluments part. Now, based on the court judgment, the effective date of my removal from the service is 17 February 2014. That is the date that I was actually transferred by the PSC to the post of executive director.
Yeah.
Now, from 2014 to September 2017, when the Court of Appeal ruled, I reported at the Ministry of Legal Affairs and was paid my normal salaries. So, although the judgment is from 2014, the assumption is that you have already been paid all your salaries from 2014 up to 2017. And so the salaries due to me was from October 2018 until my 68th birthday.
Which was?
Which will be in 2025.
Okay.
Right. So we calculated all salaries that I'm supposed to get, allowances, and so forth, and it amounted to just over $600,000.
All right. Gemma, how much of that have you seen?
None as yet.
None as yet. No. When you say as yet, I'm
because I anticipate that the government
that
they will pay.
You're anticipating that.
But what has happened after the court judgment in September 2017, they paid me up to July of 2018. Then they removed me from the payroll. So as of August of 2018, I have not received any salaries or so from the government. Notwithstanding, they have to pay me until I reach 60. In October of 2018, we signed an agreement. The Attorney General, myself, my lawyer, we signed an agreement that covers all the emoluments and it deducts the income tax and so that I would have to pay up to age 60. So we have that agreement. That agreement was entered into the court as a consent order. So there's a court judgment for that. As different to the vindicatory judgment that we received about last week.
Well, I want to talk about the vindicatory judgment in just a minute, but you know, I have to dwell on this for a little bit longer. I get the feeling that you're optimistic that you're going to be paid. You know, and I want to find out, where does that optimism come from? And the reason I'm asking where does that come from is because I'm sure that you're aware there are a number of cases in this country where people are owed money by the government, you know, for whatever reasons, and they just haven't seen it. So where does that optimism come from?
I see my matter as slightly different to a debt. Although the government seems to be dealing with it as a debt, in my view, it is not a debt. A debt is when you borrow from somebody or an organization. The government didn't borrow from me. I haven't lent them any money. My understanding that when someone is removed in that manner, they are not supposed to be worse off than if they were working. And if the government is serious, they would ensure that the person is not worse off. Secondly, based on the Fiscal Responsibility Act, when the government incurs an unbudgeted expense, they need to pay and sort it out within a relatively short period of time. So a liability that is incurred in 2018 should be sorted out maybe before 2018 ends. And so I see my matter as that liability. It was not budgeted, but this expense came up, and you need to be fiscally responsible and pay it and not treat it as a debt. But I must say that the government did make a proposal to my lawyer in terms of payments. The government basically took the entire amount, divided it by the amount of months to take me up to age 60, and got a monthly amount. And they propose to pay that monthly amount quarterly, commencing March 2019.
So this month they're supposed to start paying it?
Well, when they sent the proposal to my lawyer, they gave us 14 days within which to respond.
Right.
We looked at it, and we were not comfortable with the proposal as it is, bearing in mind that from August of 2018, I have not received any payments.
And by the way, do they intend to pay your interest as well?
The calculations they sent did not include interest.
Okay. All right. But in any event, they have suggested to you that they could start paying in March of this year.
On a paying the total amount quarterly until I reach age 60.
Okay. In the meantime, you've been back to court about the, what is it called now? The
vindicatory damages.
Vindicatory damages. Let's talk a bit about that one. Mm-hmm. Explain to me, what are these vindicatory damages?
It's, as is a constitutional matter, the precedents has said that just giving you the compensation, your emoluments and so alone may not be enough to deter the executive from continuing to act in an unconstitutional manner. Not against you, but maybe somebody else.
Somebody else, okay.
And so the court has held that a small award can also be made to vindicate that constitutional right that was infringed.
Okay.
And so this is where the whole concept of vindicatory damage comes in.
In the ruling, which I just want to quote from the ruling here. It says here, the purpose of the award, whether it is made to redress the contravention or as relief, is to vindicate the right. It is not to punish the executive. But vindication involves an assertion that the right is a valuable one, as to whose enforcement the complainant herself has interest. Any award of damages for its contravention is bound, to some extent at least, to act as a deterrent against further breaches. I guess that's the point you're trying to make.
Yes, that's the point. It's a deterrent against further breach. It also looks at the sense of public outrage as a result of the unconstitutional action that has been taken. And then it also looks at the person and what they would have endured. The embarrassment, the humiliation, the fact that you not certain what is happening to you. All of that will be taken into consideration in making the award. But George, yes, the award is a good gesture, But a monetary award alone, as you know, will not deter further action.
Exactly.
Because these money not coming from the pockets of those who did the infringement of your constitutional right. The taxpayers are the one to meet the bill. And if, you know, if it happens again, it's the taxpayers to meet the bills.
There you go.
So in my mind, whilst this area of the law is relatively underdeveloped, it has to look at other factors in addition to money that could serve as a deterrent.
All right. Gemma, bottom line is that as it stands now, you are entitled to compensation of about a little over $700,000. Okay. And I sense some degree of optimism with a pinch of skepticism that you will receive your funds. What if you don't? What recourse do you... first of all, how much time are you prepared to give them? How long are you prepared to wait?
Well, I've been waiting since August. So I've waited almost 7 months already. Any amount of resources that I have will, at some point in time, run out. So I don't think I can wait too much longer. I have bills to pay and so forth. I have myself to take care of. So at some point in time, I will have to see some movement taking place towards meeting the court judgment.
Okay, but
in terms of recourse, you can go to the court for a payment order, but you know how long it takes to get anything through the court. We took 5 years.
Right now, we don't have much of a court system, do we?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we took 5 years to have my matter completed. We started in February 2014, but we have had High Court judgment, Court of Appeal judgment, back to High Court. We took 5 years. No one wants to be in the court system this long. You really anticipate that your matters would be litigated and a judgment delivered within a reasonable time.
All right. Bottom line is that if a certain you're not prepared to quote in terms of number of days or weeks, but there is a limit.
There is a limit. Yes, there is a limit.
Okay. And if that limit is not met, then you are prepared to take whatever steps you
necessary.
have to take.
Yes.
Okay. Gemma, in closing, let me ask you this. You've just been through an ordeal, and I mean, it's been out in the public domain for several years now. Okay. You're not the first person to wind up at loggerheads with Prime Minister Mitchell. Definitely not the first, and I wouldn't dare say that you're going to be the last. Can you put your finger on a reason why this seems to be a recurring theme? Like I said, it's not the first time, Gemma. Any idea, having worked with this man, what can you say?
I am still puzzled. I have experienced the removals of persons from 1995 because I was in the public service in 1995 when people like Richard Duncan. As a matter of fact, we ended up having to rely on Richard Duncan's judgment to bolster my case. What it is, I really don't know. But over the years, you would notice that there has been a change in face of the public service. And the apolitical public service that you knew has changed. And persons seem to feel that they have to be loyal and aligned to a person than doing their work in the system. That has changed how the public service operates fairly much, but It could be people want a sense of security. So I want people around me who I'm comfortable with, who I know will ensure that I remain here for as long as I want.
Regardless.
Regardless.
Sad. Sad. Thank you very much, Gemma Bain. I certainly wish you the very best in collecting your money, and not just you, but the others who are owed outstanding amounts out there. I don't know whether I should be optimistic, hopeful, or not. But being a perennial optimist, I'm going to hang in there and say that maybe down the road it's going to come. And thank you for being persistent, because this battle you've been fighting for the last few years, it's not just for Gemma Bain, it's for a lot of other people in this country.
That's true.
We do appreciate it. Thanks a lot, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Okay.
All right.
Okie doke. There she goes. Gemma Bain-Thomas. Time will tell. And I tell you, she certainly moved a number of you out there on social media this morning. Lots and lots of comments out there this morning. Arthur Langine says, let's see here. Hold on a sec. Sister Bain, I'm very proud of you. Keep your head high, as you have been doing. J.C. Henry Williams says, she ain't no fool for sure. Peter Bishop says, a waste of taxpayers' money. Esther Morgan says, Sister Bain, I feel your pain. Arthur says, when the Grenada God is finished with Grenada, Lord help them. Chester Simon is asking, he says, I wonder if Dorset Charles got paid as yet. J.C. Henry Williams says, retroactively. Yeah, J.C. Arthur says, I do hope that those fools who call the 6:30 talk show on WeFM are listening, so in the morning they would have some advice to give the Grenada God. J.C. Henry Williams says, don't hold your breath, lady. Marslin Valerie Lewis says, the government just injected $1 million into the dead horse, LIAT. So why can't they pay Gemma the full amount? Peter says, I'm so pleased. Oh, hold on a sec here. I'm so pleased to know that her lawyer is Rohan Phillip, a son of Carriacou. Very proud of him. Esther says, Miss Bain, please, please be strong. Want you to go crazy. Keep smiling. Keep shining. You are going to prevail. Ryan Jaban in Orlando says, well, Gemma dear, old people say you can live in hope and die in marquee. Ryan, I use that term a lot. Chester says, I hope you have a strong husband. If you don't get your money, send him to throw some big stone in Parliament. No, Chester, no violence, please. None. Gemma FM, the sheriff, says, the government is just being vindictive. Charles Norma says, what good for the goose should be good for the gander. Renewed Purpose says, it is about time we put legislation in place that will hold government officers liable and ensure they pay from their pockets instead of taxpayers. This is inhumane, for God's sakes. Okay, folks, let's hope that things work out for Gemma. Now, it's time to say good morning. I haven't talked with this guy on this program before, but he's been sitting here very patiently since 9 o'clock this morning. He's been with us observing everything very carefully. And I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about. I'm referring to Johncrow Alexander. Pilgrims, Georgie Porgy is going to take a little break here. And when he comes back, let me let you have a quick glance. Take a look at him. Take a look at him. See that gentleman there? That's Mr. Johncrow Alexander, chuckling. He is waiting to fire up. We'll get to him after this.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And GRENADA is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while GRENADA can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
GRENADA, energizing our Grenada.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try their sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harvey Vale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts. And in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton home.
Welcome home.
Alrighty, folks, just before I get to Johncrow, another quick comment here from Esther Morgan. Esther says, the fight is for all the workers who had to walk the same road as you. Mr. Prime Minister, please be compassionate and pay up. Maybe you can sell one of your buildings in New York. Then we move to Johncrow. There's a note here from somebody who says, the Johncrow? Yeah, the Johncrow in the flesh. I guess this person is in New York and knows about his program. And then Ryan, who is in Orlando, says, John, you look like Uriah Buzz Butler. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm fine. I'm glad to. I mean, this is a real honor. It's one of those things on the bucket list. Nowadays, everybody talking about the bucket list. Well, I don't just have the bucket. I also have the list, and I appreciate being on the program with you because I've heard so much about you and have spoken to you briefly. But it's the first time that we actually engaging in this forum and in this platform. Thank you.
You know, you sort of took the words from my mouth, John, because I was about to say to you, it's an honor. I keep hearing about this Johncrow. I talked to the man on social media, but I wasn't sure who the heck this Johncrow is. And I want to thank our good friend out there, Margaret, for hooking us up.
Yes. We got to acknowledge Margaret.
Well, let me tell you, man. Anthony DeRiggs says, good to see Mr. Johncrow here. He is truly a man who possesses great knowledge and experience. And Esther Morgan says, Johncrow in the house. Love you. And of course,
they're very kind. Some people are very kind, and they say nice things about me. I don't know that sometimes I could live up to the advanced billing in most cases. I just want to jump off here. I saw something posted this morning on one of my friends' pages. I mean, we're talking healthcare and we're speaking about the people who provide that. It says, to all nurses, I want you to know we all admire and look up to you. You are awesome and you seriously hold the greatest titles on earth. Thank you for everything that you do. And as a product of growing up in a household where 3 nurses worked in the Grenada hospitals at different times, one of them is now retired in Carriacou, and another one is in England, the other one is in Canada. Those 3 aunts of mine who worked in the hospital system in Grenada, and seeing and hearing the stories that they came home with. And then today we still have family members who are still in that profession. I can't be too critical of the nurses and, I should say, the practitioners. And when we talk about healthcare systems, we have to be very careful. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, and recent guests have used that analogy before. Yes, we have a broken system. Yes, we have a terrible system. Many can attest to their personal experiences. But at the same time, we have to take things into context and look at what we have and what is it that we're trying to do. We're trying, for the most part, in Grenada, we do not pay for healthcare. In Grenada, we do not take care of our personal health in a real serious way. We eat, nowadays especially, we eat a very bad and foreign diet. And then we turn to the healthcare system and expect that system to step up and take care of us. Whereas if we were asked to pay for the services that they provide, in many instances, not that we don't do it, many instances we can't do it. Now, that said, we also have to look at our elected officials who could afford it. Whenever they have a headache, they have the resources that they can hop a plane and jet off to Miami, jet off to France, jet off to the UK, jet off to Brooklyn, and get the help that they need. They do not rely on the hospital systems in Grenada. And so, you know, we had to kind of look at those kinds of dynamics and see where our personal involvement is involved, and where do we fit into the scheme of things, and how we are paying or helping to improve that system. I have a lot of things I want to say.
Well, John, you know, man, you jumped right out of the gate this morning, man. And let me tell you, you have got these people here wound up. Margaret says, I tell you, my boy Johncrow looking fine.
Easy, Margaret, easy.
Arthur Langine says, good morning, Brother Johncrow. Looking forward to hear what you have to offer to us. Augustine Lewis. Do you know all these people? Augustine Lewis and Arthur Langine?
The names, I know the names. I'm sure if I see the faces, I'll be able to identify them. But I have a very real problem with names and faces. And a lot of people I know, but I don't know their real names or their names.
You and me both. You and me both. Arthur Langine says, Brother Grant, thank you for keeping us informed. That's why I have him here, Arthur. Esther Morgan says, Johncrow, the walking encyclopedia.
Wow. Wow. Okay. I'll take it.
And she also says, let's vote Johncrow as our PM.
I will be watch me. That will be that will be bigger than the revolution. Wow, Johncrow as Prime Minister of Grenada. Jesus.
Boy, you didn't know what you stepped into when you agreed to. He's mopping his brow.
By the way, I want to say this now. I don't know if Gemma has a husband or not. If she has a husband, I want her to adopt me.
Gemma, I hope you're listening. Yeah, John, listen, you know, I actually prepared a bit of an introduction for you. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it. This is a gentleman who lives in the New York area, and he has become one of the chief mobilizers of assistance to this beautiful little land that we have here called Grenada. Yes, we depend a lot on our diaspora, okay, in the areas of health, in the areas of small business, education, etc., etc. And John, as a broadcaster, he's worked with medical professionals in the New York area to bolster much needed health services in Grenada. And he's currently actually involved in assembling another container for shipment to our shows. He's the host of a television program in the New York area. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that program to get started, John.
Caribbean Classroom is called Caribbean Classroom. I have been doing that program now for the better part of 20 plus 30, almost 30, maybe 30 years, because my daughter is now 33. And I think I started when she was around 2 or 3 years old. So the program has been ongoing now, at least, well, for the last year. I pulled back in terms of producing the program on a regular basis. I mean, once in a while I'll do something. I wanted to step back to just simply see and to feel the market, so to speak, to see whether or not I have viewership. Because with the advent of social media, I never had YouTube and Facebook and those platforms in order to push the program. So that it was primarily out of the Queens area in the Queens Public Television, and the equivalent of that is in Brooklyn, which is Brooklyn, called BCAT, Brooklyn Community Television. And through those two platforms is where generally we sent out a whole lot of the information that we produced. In addition to me producing the program, I also work as an instructor with Queens Public Television, teaching adults how to, you know, put a simple program together, how to operate the cameras, lighting, sound, etc., and the basic stuff. And I've been doing that for quite a bit. And now that I have taken over, it's about a year and maybe a month or so that I what month? No, we're in, where are we now? We're in March?
Still in March, yeah.
So about a year and 3 months or so, I've not produced any new programs.
Okay, hold on a sec, John. A couple of people here on Facebook are saying, John, turn your volume down. There is feedback. I'm not hearing any feedback. I'm hearing them loud and clear. But somebody else here is saying that your radio can be heard in the background. Do you have a radio?
Okay, maybe that's where the feedback is coming from. Let's take because I'm kind of following. I was following the program on my phone.
Oh, okay.
So then maybe that's where it's kicking back the sound into my microphone. So that should have taken care of it, because I just took it out.
It's gone.
Okay.
Kipling Francis says, Johncrow is PM. I could live with that. As long as he as long as he makes Chester Simon the health minister.
Chester Simon is the health minister.
Yeah. And Lincoln Roberts says, long time no see. We were at your wedding years ago. Love to your wife. We're family.
Okay.
You know, Lincoln?
I'm sure I do. Like I said, my problem is faces and names, and us making a connection between the faces and the names. And so that, you know, I'm sure Lincoln is somebody that we're familiar with.
Lincoln is living in Florida. And Janice Faray says, JC is Grenada's national gift, which keeps on giving. Always there to spearhead worthwhile projects to benefit the wider nation and nationals. Keep up the good deeds and love for nation. Love you and your energy and insight.
Janice was supposed to be my first wife, but then she didn't accept my invitation when I
All kinds of stuff coming out on this program this morning. Where in Grenada are you from, John?
I was born in Noels Hill, St. James, St. Andrews, Grenada. It's a little village just a little bit above Birch Grove, on top of Preference, outside the outskirts of Baltazar, the top end of Baltazar, the estate, the big estate in in Grenada, yes.
Well, we weren't too far apart. I was on the way up to Ladigue.
Oh, Ladigue. Okay, so I was on top. So St. James, you know, is on top of Ladigue. Oh, that's where the grant is from. So then you have family in Birch Grove.
Probably.
You have family. Yes.
John, let me tell you something. When I came back to this country some 30-something years ago, I found out that I had more cousins than anything in this country.
Oh, yes. The Grant family that is in Birch Grove, and so you're connected to the Maguires in Ladigue, etc., etc. Yes.
Yeah.
Even you, and you might be related to Mr. Lynn, who you had was it last week as your guest. I think that through the Pascal family, Grant, I think there's a connection there somewhere that you're related to them. So the thing about Grenada is, like I said,
everybody's related to everybody in this.
Well, I told my daughter and my son now, I told both of them, I said, if and when you decide to get yourself engaged with anybody involved on a sexual, personal, married kind of a basis, once they tell you that they are from Grenada, just cross the street and keep walking in the opposite direction. Leave them alone. That's not. Don't even entertain. Well, maybe we're related. Maybe we're not related. Maybe we. No. Once you have, they say Grenada, say, well, nice to know you. Very nice. Well, we could be friends. We can't get involved because chances are you will be getting married or getting connected to one of your family members.
Absolutely. By the way, Sharon, who is Lincoln's sister, Lincoln Roberts, she says, tell him that Lincoln is married to Ann Duncan Roberts, your wife's cousin.
Okay. So I'm sure, I'm telling you, you can't run, you can't hide, there's no way you can get away. We are one big family, period. End of story.
All right.
I was over the summertime, there was a family member that I did not know. We didn't grow up as family, and I saw they were into some kind of a crisis situation, and out of the blue I got a call, and so I trying to help, and just as a Grenadian helping another Grenadian, and in the process to find out that we close, and we very, very, very close. I mean, if I was a fresh kind of a guy, I might have said the wrong thing and end up in big trouble, but it just so happened that, well, being the upstanding kind of a person, and I tell Margaret to keep quiet.
Now, I remember you saying that you weren't too familiar with Chester Simon, but Chester, he's in Zurich, Switzerland, and Chester does pretty much what you're doing in New York, helping the Grenadian people with containers and stuff like that. And he says here, hi, John, I've been hurt by the Grenadian government before, but I am willing to support you in whatever you're doing. And that sounds just like the Chester I know, have come to know over the years. Always willing to reach out and lend a helping hand. So I think you guys had better get together.
Well, I say this to you, George. It's the first time I've taken this venture on, and let me just acknowledge Mr. Bertrand Lessy from Ladigue and Fitzcharles from Birch Grove, better known as Small Clothes, DJ, and that's DJ Small Clothes #1, right? That's Fitz, not Tado. Tado is number 2. Tado was my student, anyway. I have to acknowledge the two of them because they have stepped up. I started this process, and let me just give you a little background here. When my mother-in-law died, she was a very strong advocate for the Father Hilarion home in Sotez. And so when she died, as we were making our funeral arrangements, I said to the family, rather than people bringing flowers to the funeral, let's instead of ask them to make a contribution, financial contribution to the nursing home that was her charity. In her name, Leah Ogist, I did not know her. She, or Ogist or Ojas, we reached out to her, and to make it speed up the process, she said to us at the end that she was able to raise considerable. I mean, I don't remember how much it is now, but a considerable amount of money, and it's the most money that they have seen in a short period of time in a long time. The nursing homes in Grenada, for the most part, are private. I think we only have one public nursing home, but they all are suffering. There are 14 nursing homes in Grenada. Fast forward 40 days after my mother-in-law died, my stepmother died, Marion Henry, the Romanian Henry in Victoria. And in making the arrangements now for me to go home for her funeral, I called Leah and asked her, well, what is it that you really needed? What is it that you really need and you could use right now? And she said to me then, what she really need is a pot. And I was like, what? A pot? I said, a pot like in cooking pot? No, that's the last thing I wanted to hear from, like a nursing home needing a pot. When you need a pot for. And so she said, yes, a cooking pot, because she said they have about 30 patients and about 15 or 16 staff. And the pot that they have that they use, that they can cook for that large number of people in one shot, they've used it so much. It's the only one that they had with that capacity. And so they could really use one right now. So my wife, my son, myself, we went out shopping for pots. And we were able to get a pot, large pot. I had a large suitcase, so I stuffed the pot, the suitcase in the pot, and I stuffed a hole because she had also asked for scrubs. And so again, me and my begging self, I beg everybody that I know who could help me with some scrubs, and I was able to get scrubs from organizations and individuals alike, and stuffed those items in the suitcase with this pot and took it home for Auntie Marion's going for Auntie Marion's funeral. When now I delivered the pot to the nursing home, but Leah was not there. However, she said when she came in next morning and she got into her office, she saw the suitcase, she opened the suitcase, and she let out a scream, she said to me. She let out this like piercing scream. So everybody came rushing to her office thinking something was wrong with her. And so she said when they all came in and they saw the pot, they all screamed. Yeah. And so they all like scream, ah! And the rest. So after when I went back to visit the nursing home and I saw, first time they gave me a little tour of the conditions and what have you. So when I got back here, I said, well, let me put a little barrel together, 2 barrels or something like that together, with some of the items that I was collecting, pull-ups and diapers and, scrubs, more scrubs. And I asked her to send me a list. And so she sent me like things like gloves and wipes, basic things. And so then as I collected the stuff, from different people, as one person tell the next, well, I have some diapers. I have a guy and his friend, Paula, who said to me, listen, my aunt gets this a lot, but she gets a lot of it and she can't use all of it. So you could have, whatever she can't use. So Paula then told this other lady, I have a young lady who's in school and also working. Her boss collects these as well. And so then I've been collecting them. Her name is Marcy. She's been donating a lot of, almost every month, at least I get 2 boxes or so from her. As it turns out, George, while I'm collecting to send home and trying to build this container idea, build on these items to send to the container, send this container home, lo and behold, I have people locally now who need these diapers, and they would, knowing that I collect this, they call me up and say, listen, I have a family member who need, and so I'm getting enough that I'm able to not just put in the container, but also to help. I have about 3 or 4 people right now who I will make donations to because it's very expensive. And these are usable diapers, adult diapers that that we have. Well, I'd say having circulation, because in addition to putting it in the container to go home. Now, while I'm talking about this container, let me tell you, it's the first time I'm doing the container thing. So it started out as a barrel, then it was going to go to a crate because I was getting so much stuff. By the time I spoke to Botti or Botran and Small Clothes, we went from crate to, well, container. And how we arrive at the container, a young man by the name of is a Francis. We used to call him Fishtail. He used to drive a taxi back in Grenada. And Fishtail work in the geriatric area, you know, old people, helping old people and what have you. So he has access to these beds, hospital beds. And so Sharon Caesar had put me in touch with him, and at first it was diapers that he was giving me. So after Sharon put us in touch with each other, he then said, well, look, I don't only have diapers, I have these beds that we could, you know. So now, as a result, Fishtail has given me it started out with 15 beds. It's now somewhere in the vicinity, I stopped counting, somewhere about 40 or more beds. He's given me oxygen, medical oxygen, I don't know the names of anything, a whole lot of items. Right now, if I was able to get the funds to ship this container to Grenada, I would be helping the hospital. I would be helping amputees who are people who have lost limbs. I would be helping the nursing homes. And so that, because of the items that I've collected, I have walkers. As a matter of fact, 2 nights ago, I went into, there was again, Paula, where she works, they were throwing out this motorized scooter thing, and I was able to hand that over to Charlotte Nurse, who lost a leg in an accident here, and my son is going out the door heading for church. I'm missing church again this week, George, because of you. I want you to know that. Anyhow. No, it's all good. It's all good. I play drums in my church. Okay. But anyway, so now, yes, I was saying that Charlotte was able to gift, again, through a kind of a maze of a network, Denise Roberts and Felix and individuals who know people who need certain things. So here I am, again, able to gift out to Charlotte. And so now, with all of these items that I've collected, and trying to build this container, now I have to give props to Connie, to that lady from Guelph. Oh God, her name went out and she's gonna kill me. But she's given up her basement, where I'm able to store all of these items in her basement. Wade, Miss Wade. Her other name is going to come to me in a minute. Anyway, but my mother's garage is almost, my sister wants to kill me because I take all this thing and I put it in another garage, and she's supposed to be fixing the garage in the spring right now as the season, the weather change and what have you. So, all of these different people who don't know each other, and through me, I'm able to reach out to all of those folk and collect all of these items and to send home. And let me just give a little plug here. I know we're beating up on the hospital and we're beating up on things. People like the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health, Pauline Peters, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Has been very, 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 very supportive and very encouraging in trying to put this together. And so it's a lot of hands, if you will, mixed in. Now, in terms of the government and their responsibility, now, we tend to look at government and we expect the government to solve all of our problems. But I am not holding up hope or holding out hope in terms of the government coming through and quote unquote helping. If we could get a help, Pauline has made verbal agreements that she, through her, influence, to make sure that we have the concessions once the items are identified, and we can give them a list of the things that we have. I'm going to hold her to that, because she said she will, and so I'm expecting that she will. But in terms of the government helping to pay for it, I mean, it will be nice. Whiskey shippers is where we have a lot of items stored as well. And in conversation, the initial price tag that they threw at us, so somewhere in the vicinity of $7,000, at $7,000 US to get that container home. I'm not holding my breath that somebody gonna write a check, but it'll be nice.
Listen, somebody here named Esther Morgan is saying, reach out to Compass Shipping. Ever heard of them?
Yes, I know. That's the competitor to whiskey shipping. Okay. But the thing is that we have most of the items stored at whiskey. So it will be very disingenuous of us after they've been holding our items for all this long time. Because one of the things that we learned in the process is that there were items stored before, and items that was specifically to send home to the nursing homes, and to the hospital. And so to go to Compass now, I think will be a little bit disingenuous. But I'm willing to work with whomever is going to help us to get this stuff home.
John, you said something very important a little while ago. You were talking about the dependency on government. People are always saying the government is not doing this, not doing that. And you're absolutely right. You cannot expect government to do everything, okay? Right. And the bottom line, anybody who wants to be fair and tell the truth will admit that this government has accomplished a lot.
Yes.
However, John, they are under a hell of a lot of fire. Why?
Yes.
Why? Attitude. Listen to me.
Go ahead.
Attitude, John. Attitude towards the people. It has been such a turnoff in recent years. That's why the people are bitching the way they are right now, and they are bitching, okay?
Yes.
Because they have had it up to here.
Up to their noses.
Yeah.
Up to their noses. Yes.
So you understand. And, one of the questions I had here for you is, what is the diaspora's perception of the healthcare system here in Grenada? Well, you touched on it a little while ago when you said that Grenadians should not be expecting government to do everything. But I want you to go a little bit deeper than that. How do you guys feel when you hear these stories? And I know that you've heard them. When you hear these stories about what's going on here in Grenada, what do the people out there feel?
In a short and one-word answer, dismal. The general consensus by those I speak to, I have not heard a whole lot of positives by anybody speaking of the healthcare system in Grenada. And it's something like, okay, I was home, and this is where I get to plug this initiative I did. I was home last year, separate from the funeral, with a mission, a health mission, where I was able to bring in influential. I won't say I was able to bring it. Let me rephrase that. With the help of people like Barbara Braffett, Anne Auguste Hopkin, myself, we were able to team up and were influential in bringing to Grenada a surgical team, 2 doctors, who came in and did fistula implants. Now, fistula implants is putting in valves in patients who need dialysis. The follow-up, and while we did 7 surgeries were done, I got to experience firsthand being in the operating room in and around the hospital, in and around that St. George's Hospital for the 7 days or the week was a week, 6 days or so that we were there, and were able to witness firsthand a team of professionals, not just the visiting doctors, but the local doctors. And I would not sit here and pretend everything is a bed of roses and everything is perfect. There are problems. But one of the things that and I'm kind of on the fence with it. Yes, I hear the complaints. Yes, I hear the gripes and the moans, Okay? But I am from the school where let's light a candle as opposed to cursing the darkness. Let's do something. So this effort that I'm making right now with this container, and I have to say that Grenadians have been quite gracious. Those who have reached out to, those who have heard that I'm doing this, and they will call me up. I have Grenadians, non-Grenadians. One of the first calls that I got was a lady who is a Jamaican who listens to Gus on family radio in Brooklyn on a weekend, and she said to me that she doesn't turn off the station, you know, once it comes on the weekend. She's on the station 24/7 because, you know, she just loves the music and etc. She's Jamaican, and she was one of the first persons to reach out and to give. So that I'm saying that if someone like that who does not have a dog in that fight, and she's able to say, well, here I have some diapers you can have, or I have some scrubs you can have. I'm saying to Grenadians, while we have problems, but take a little chill pill, and let's not just cast everything to the side. Going back to the mission, the doctors and the nurses who were on that operating team and made possible the 7 patients who received the fistula implants, they're grateful today, and they are doing well. Merle Williams now work in that facility that where they get the dialysis done, and they're in a happier state. Now, in the same breath, we also have the follow-up that was supposed to take place after the operation that has not been done, and I'm on that side where, again, there has to be a give and take on both sides. Those of us who want to help and who are helping, and these people on the other end in Grenada who are receiving the help. And whereas you're not in a position to say yay or nay, give or take or whatever, but you are in a position to keep the door open, keep it possible, and allow for us who are offering the help, allow for the help to flow. And as opposed to not responding in a timely manner, or not doing as you're supposed to in a timely manner, or not following up, you know, in a timely manner, because it becomes frustrating. And one of the most, and I don't have to tell you this, one of the most frustrating things in dealing with us people at home, in our folk at home, is nothing is important. No one is in a hurry. Nothing is a priority. And this is where the breakdown comes in, and that's where the frustration comes in. Because, like for instance, right, the call that I got earlier this week to pick up that motorized wheelchair thing that Charlotte ended up getting. If I was not able to move on it the same night, that item, and they have several other tables and things that they were giving away, those items would go in the garbage. No, I could not help but imagine, like, if this is like, say, I had to make a phone call to Grenada to able to say, well, do you need this, or can we use this? But by the time I get the answer, it'll be too late, and I'll be losing, a few $1,000s of equipment that we could use. Yeah. And that is the frustration. That is where the frustration is mounted. So it's not so much, say, the government, and you use the right word just when you say the attitude, that the people who know and are able to say, yeah, many a times it's just a matter of a phone call. I am telling you right now, I'm sitting on trying to get the group that came, the name of the group is HERO, Health and Education Relief Organization. They're primarily doctors who are Guyanese, by birth and what have you, but they go out and they help everybody. The other group I work with is called OID, Organization for International Development. And that group, the OID group, they are getting ready now to have the annual luncheon, and they travel to every country on the planet you could think about, including the United States. They've gone to Haiti, they've gone to Dominican Republic, working with downtrodden people who can't afford medical care, etc. These two organizations are providing free health care, free health access, free screenings, etc. I'm sitting right now, George, waiting to get a date to say, okay, let's see if we could let's look at December, let's look at January, let's look at August. And I'm sitting for months now, not weeks, not days, not hours, months, waiting on a date or waiting on a phone call that says, okay, Johncrow, let's go. Okay, and the individual, and I'm not going to let me be careful. I'm not going to blow them up, because if I say he or she, all they're going to know who I'm talking about.
John, let me tell you something, man. You know, you have said so much here this morning. We only have about 5 minutes left, but
Oh God, Lord have mercy.
Hold on a minute. I want to touch on something you said. You know, you were talking about the Grenadians who criticize and basically do nothing. Social media has given people a platform.
Yeah, everybody is. Yes.
Yap.
Yeah.
And it is so refreshing to me when I see suggestions being made. This morning, first of all, I've seen people suggesting here that you should start a GoFundMe campaign. You know what that is?
Yes, I'm familiar with that.
Okay. You know, and that's a terrific idea, but there are a lot of people there who just vent a lot of crap because they have the freedom to do that, and it's very, very annoying.
Right.
There's somebody, Chester Simon is asking, he says he needs your email. This is the guy who's been doing what you're doing in Zurich, Switzerland. He wants your email. I can pass that on to him later on today.
I can tell it. I can say it. Chester, right? You have a writing instrument. It's myjohncrow@gmail.com. My Johncrow CROW @gmail.com.
myjohncrow@gmail.com.
That's it. Simple and straightforward. We can always reach out to each other that way, and we can make things happen. In terms of the GoFundMe page, one of the reasons why I'm waiting on a phone call. I've asked a couple people who I know are directors of non-profit organizations that I can use their organization to create the GoFundMe, because if I was to create many people might not know this, if you create a GoFundMe campaign, the money that money is now totaled into your income tax report and income tax, and you can get into a tax situation.
Okay.
Where that is concerned. So I am a little bit leery to go and like, okay, I raised $10,000 or $20,000. No, it's not coming to me personally, and so that it will affect my personal income.
Okay.
And so that I have to be very. I'm being very cautious. And go that direction through a non-profit organization.
Esther Morgan is saying that she needs your contact number. Well, Esther, how about sending him an email, myjohncrow@gmail.com, and he'll send you that number, okay? John, I want you to do me a favor. When you get through with the program, there's so many comments that have been posted here this morning since you came on.
Right.
I just don't have the time to read them all, okay? But
right.
I want you to do me a favor, and yourself. Go back to the Facebook page, Facebook/GrenadaBroadcast, and
right.
read those comments. I think you'll be very encouraged. I like to provide encouragement for people, and I think you'll be very encouraged by what you see. Glenn Andrew Mark is asking, is it John, Jon, or John? It's John. Yeah, okay. So yeah, go on back and take a look, John. And another favor I have to ask of you. There's so much that we haven't touched on. I have a list here, but you haven't even given me a chance to bung away on you.
I'm sorry. That's the broadcast. Never give a broadcaster a microphone, and they tend to go crazy. That's the problem.
So listen, I'm going to take this opportunity right now to extend an invitation to you, John, to come on back and see us soon, please.
Anytime. You know how to reach me. You know how to find me. I am quite available, and I'm quite willing. Quite willing. Let me quickly. I want to make a plug here. I talked about Hero, but there's a film festival coming up, and Mishaida Phillip is spearheading this, talking about Grenadians who are giving back. And I will give you two people, right? Mishaida Phillip is doing this film festival coming up in. It's called 12 Degrees North, 61 Degrees West. For Grenadian Film Festival, May 3rd, 4, and 5. I want to encourage Grenadians to please support this initiative. There's a young man, talk about people in the diaspora helping. There's a young man, Crispin Booker. He has created this organization called Veronica's Way Incorporated. And what he has done so far, George, you probably don't know this, he has donated computers, laptops, to at least 3 schools so far, and he's coming back soon to donate another set of computers to another set of schools. I don't have the schools listing, but if you go to Veronica's Way on Facebook, I think he has a Facebook page as well as a internet page, and his name is Crispin Booker. If you check him out, he is in the process of making some computer donations to schools in Grenada. Francis Purcell. Well, in Grenada is Purcell, but in America is Purcell. I had to make a distinction. And Pat Adams, they the Alumni Association initiative that took place several years ago now. They're coming back again this year with the Reader Cross. Now we have a National Reader Cross Grenada Day that we celebrate, and Francis and Pat and others are the ones responsible for starting this whole Reader Cross and this whole thrust and reading in Grenada, which are highly commendable. You know, I know I have 5 minutes, so let me go through this. I had to acknowledge my cousin and her family. All of the anthurium lilies that you saw for the big royal visit that took place recently was provided by Marie's Rose Garden.
Oh.
Yes, and so that I have to give her a shout out, and I have to give a special shout out to the Happy Hill High School, the secondary school in Happy Hill, and the entire staff, the entire singing staff of the Happy Hill.
All right.
I have to give them a shout out. But anyway, that's what we do. That we try to help wherever we can, whenever we can. Some people appreciate it. A lot of people appreciate what we try to do, and hopefully we could keep this engine running and get this container home as soon as possible.
That's great news. And I'll tell you what, as I sit here listening to you, I've had to do some quick executive thinking. There are 2 pieces that I'm supposed to run from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank about digital currency.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to sort of cut that and just run 1 piece this morning, so that I could give you a couple more. I could give you another 5 minutes. I'm going to run 1 piece this morning and run the other piece next week. But I certainly hope if you could rejoin us in about a month or so to talk a little bit further, because you have obviously resonated here with the audience this morning. What you have said has really moved a lot of people, and that's why I want you to go on back and see for yourself what they had to say. Okay? So, in parting, what do you have to say, Mr. Johncrow Alexander?
I don't know, whatever. I mean, well, the thing is that I didn't acknowledge my wife. I have to give a lot of props to my wife and my son and my daughter and my granddaughter for the support, and my mother and oh God, Lord have mercy, everybody in the family, my brother, especially my brother. I cannot go without acknowledging him. Supermix is his public name or stage name. And we, as a family, as a unit, because I while I go, I mean, they see my face and they hear my voice and they see me about tongue and doing whatever I do. But the people around me, the support network around me, are the ones who help make it happen. I have 2 brilliant sisters in Grenada who are so supportive of me and what I do. One is in the public, well, both in the public domain. Again, service to the island, service to the country is what we as a family know, and we do what we do, all based on the fact it's service and it's helping somebody that we know. If not the person that we know directly, it's somebody that we know who will benefit. I mean, like, just as a matter of reference, when the fire struck in Guav several years ago, and I think 5 families lost their houses, a group of us in Brooklyn got together and we were able to raise enough money where we sent home something like 9 barrels, and that were able to assist those families who lost everything in those fires. Again, on the spur of the moment. It was not like an orchestrated, big guy standing in some, and we're not talking about people who have a lot. We're talking people who living paycheck to paycheck. And we simply came together and said, well, let's do this on behalf of the family. Now, people looking at me saying, well, but Johncrow, how come you're involved with the Guave fire relief thing? I mean, you're not from Guave. I said, no, I'm not from Guave. I'm from Grenada. And Grenadians are the ones who were hurt. And so we worked with NADMA at the time. I forget the guy's name who was in charge, and working through him and with him, and so that we were able to get these barrels to Grenada to assist those families in need. I am not some kind of special person. I mean, I put my pants on one leg at a time every day, just like everybody else. I mean, I put on my shirt one sleeve at a time like everybody else, okay? We wake up in the morning and we look for whatever is the day has to offer, and we try to help. I mean, that is how we grew up. My grandmothers, and I had 3 of them. I had 3 grandmothers. I think I'm the only one who know about having 3 grandmothers. And what I looked at is how you could not come to my grandmother's house, any of them, and you would walk away with your hands swinging. You had to have something in your hand when you left.
All right.
I mean, I'm the one who would chase the chicken down on a Sunday, for instance, and I'm the one who will, get the neck off and so forth, and put the hot water and feather the bird and what have you. And how my grandmother was able to feed the entire family, and then somebody passing by, they could still get enough to eat and still have a big leg of chicken in the plate. I never understood that. Yeah. But these are the kind of things that families did. I mean, and we somehow or the other seem to have lost some of those kinds of traits where we look out for each other, yeah, whether we have or we don't have. We just simply looked out for each other. And that's the spirit that I know. I mean, I grew up with maroon. You have a piece of land to plant. You're going to plant some peas. And so you call everybody in the neighborhood. They came, and everybody came and till and turn and drop some, 2 corn and a peas, or 2 peas and a corn. I forget what the ratio was.
Doesn't matter.
Okay? And then at the end of the season, when we harvest, everybody got a bag, and you kill a pig, and everybody got a piece. So some, you go in Guave, you pull seine. The first time I pulled seine was in Victoria, and I did not know, like pulling seine as a little boy. I just gone pulling seine. So one guy saw me walking away. He said, "Well, where you share?" I said, "Share for what?" He said, "Well, your pool you're supposed to get." I said, "Well, get what?" He said, "Whatever is in the net." So I went back, and the guy said, "Well, here." And, and I brought it home. And Auntie Marion said, "Well, where you get this from?" And I said, "Well, I pull seine and they give me fish." I didn't know I was supposed to get, because, again, you just need this there, you help.
All right.
And that's where we come from.
John, somebody named Arthur Langine says here, "Mr. Grant, I thank you so much for having Mr. John on your show on this Sunday. The Lord will forgive him for not being in church today." Okay, John, listen, we got to go. But I want you to take 1 minute and do this for me. You and I talked during the week, and I mentioned to you that we are very dependent on the assistance that those of you in the diaspora give to this country of ours, the country which you so dearly love, okay? But the program that you're on right now, I have done this program in places like New York, Montreal, Toronto, London, and I've had the opportunity to meet people like yourself in the diaspora who are really determined to help, but are totally frustrated. John, look into that camera and talk to the Grenadian people about how they could make it easier for you to deliver the sort of assistance that you're busting your chops to provide. Talk to them, John.
My fellow Grenadians. Go to my thespian voice. Now, it's a very easy process. Those of us, and there are several of us, who try to help. And we're not helping because we're showing off. We're not helping because we're looking for our name to be called. We're helping because we genuinely want to help. The people who call me up and offer me the items, they're offering me the items because they want to help. National Association of University Women is a group, it's a primarily female organization. I don't know that there's any, if there's any, even one Grenadian in that particular chapter who have been quite helpful to me. Keisha Clinton is the president, the current president. There are several nameless people who many of you would never meet, and many of them may never ever visit Grenada. But they call me up and they say, well, we could help. Crispin, he was not born in Grenada, but his grandmother, whom he loved, is Grenadian. And so he decided to offer his technical services and his contacts by providing these computers. There's a young lady from Atlanta, Cecilia James, who is right now trying to establish a hearing testing for children who are hearing impaired. And she's trying to work on an initiative to assist hearing impaired children in Grenada. And it's frustrating when you have to depend on I don't want to call anybody's name, I don't get anybody in trouble, but you're trying to impress upon someone who is sitting at the gate and I would say taking their sweet time to do the job. Taking, like like one guy said to me, well, are you coming in the middle of the carnival season? And nobody had time, and just to paraphrase, we don't really have time for that now, it's carnival season. Those are the kinds of attitude and behaviors and that turn us off. And so people who want to help and who have experienced the negatives, they no longer want to be bothered. And so who end up losing, everybody calling me now, who end up losing are the Grenadian people who really need it. Because those who are sitting in those positions have the capacity and the capability to call it do for self. But I'm talking about those families who are living in back away somewhere, back wherever, they still have the mud kitchen floor. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but we have people who are living in real not so good conditions and they're not really able to help themselves. These are the people who come to mind when I'm offering the help and trying to help and trying to do something, on their behalf. My name called, my name don't get called, not important.
Thank you.
What is important is that those of you who are sitting at the gate, yes, you're busy. Yes, you're important. Yes, you know the Prime Minister personally. Yes, you could call him up and talk to him directly. Yes, you could hang out with him in the next party. Yes, you're going to get special invite for when the big prince come. Yes, we know that all of that about you. But think of the small families, the small people, those people who, you don't think about when you at the next cocktail party and you're sticking out your small finger.
Yeah.
Think about those people.
Okay.
And let's continue to do. Those of you who are doing, kudos to you. But let's all continue to do for everybody as best that we can. That lady who died on that boat did not have to die on that boat coming out of Carriacou. We have to do better. We have to do better. I don't care what party you support, what party you don't support, who you like from who you don't like. But we have to do better. Let me just say one last thing, George, and as I come to my now, let me say one last thing. There is an epidemic in Grenada where our women are under attack. Our women are under attack. And those of you, Mr. Commissioner, I'm calling you out. Mr. Commissioner of Police in Grenada, you have to do better by your police officers. Those officers who are doing a damn good job, because policing work is not an easy job. And I know your job is no easy matter either. But we have to do better by our women. So when a woman is in your custody, and something sexual happens to her, I expect a lot quicker expediency in terms of how you handle and how you choose to handle those kind of situations. We are sending the wrong message, we're sending the wrong signal. I don't know a whole lot of things, but I do know that our women needs better by us, and we have to do better by them. Thank you very much, Mr. Grant, for giving me this platform this morning, and thank you for allowing me to spread this kind of a love to our families. and hopefully that we get something moving in a much more expedient timing, fashion way, etc. Thank you, Margaret, for calling my name to George and telling George make sure Johncrow come on your show.
Boy, that's more like it. I prefer the George part than the Mr. Grant part. Make me feel cool when you call me Mr. Grant. Thanks a lot, Johncrow, and I really hope to see you again in about a month or so. Okay?
Thank you so very much. Anytime.
I really, really appreciate that. Thank you very much, my friend. Wow. 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 Johncrow, broadcaster and a lover of his country out there in New York, sharing with us this morning. Boy, that was moving. That was moving. I could sit and listen to this guy for the rest of the day, but we got some other things to do. Let's take a little break here, and we shall come on back in just a wee bit.
Start the stride to a healthy lifestyle at the 2019 annual Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. There'll be more fun, more smiles, and more prizes for families and friends. Join us in Carriacou on April 7th at 4 p.m. as we walk from the Harveyvale playing field to the Hillsborough tennis courts, and in Grenada on April 28th at 4 p.m. from the Montrouge playing field to the National Cricket Stadium. Packages cost $20 per person for up to 2 individuals and $15 per person for groups of 3 or more. Come out in your numbers to help us raise funds towards re-establishing the Carlton Home.
Welcome home.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy. We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our spice side.
GRENLEC, energizing our Grenada.
All right, pilgrims. Oh boy, running out of time real fast, but we got to get this in. As work on the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's EC Digital Currency Pilot Project advances, the ECCB shares with you what this groundbreaking initiative means for the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Check this out.
Hi, and welcome to ECCB Connects. March 12th was a historic day for the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union when the ECCB launched its EC Digital Currency Pilot Project. What is a digital currency? What does having this mean for the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, and how did this journey begin? Stay with us. We'll tell you more when we get back. Welcome back to ECCB Connects. The EC Digital Currency will be issued by the ECCB and distributed by licensed bank and non-bank financial institutions. Now, this digital currency is not to be confused with cryptocurrency. Fintech developer Alex Strawn explains.
When people hear cryptocurrency, they have a tendency to think Bitcoin, etc. But that is what I would refer to as the legacy definition when you hear cryptocurrency, because realistically, currency is usually a medium of exchange that is backed by a government and or a central bank. So there's some element of security, surety, etc. Notwithstanding that, just like with any currency, you could have exchange fluctuations. But when you look at Bitcoins, etc., it is not really a currency in the strictest sense, because it's just computer codes driven based on popularity. So the willingness of persons to hold it or not hold it or to mind it, etc., is not backed by anything. There's no persons you could run to and demand that they indemnify you or exchange it for some other asset, etc. It is just based on a willingness of persons to hold it, period. So we tend to refer to those, especially in modern times, as crypto assets. Is based on supply and demand, and is based on the willingness of persons to basically transact and or keep it. And you have had schemes such as pump and dump, where people try to drive up the volume and exploit the popularity of it, etc. Now, on the other hand, when we talk about a digital currency, we are talking to a large extent in terms of the term fiat, a currency backed by a government and or its representative central bank. What do we mean by that? At some point in time, you can exchange this for whether paper money, not so much based on a supply and a demand, but if the central bank or the government have to be able to say, listen, this, we are on the right, and so whether it is in a digital format or not, you can exchange it readily for the equivalent in its paper or physical form. That is remarkably different. In other words, it's basically a 1-to-1 ratio, or near 1-to-1 ratio between its digital format and its physical format. So they tend to be synonymous. Now, when you take cryptocurrency again, there's no physical representation, quote unquote, of this, because the very term cryptocurrency is based on that definition of it being in a sort of computer code format, public-private key. You're holding it in a particular electronic wallet. You lose that, you lose, in that particular wallet. But the digital format, when you talk about a digital currency, yes, it is electronic just like anything else, but it's not just code. That code is the exact equivalent of its paper denomination, and they are supposed to be readily exchangeable 1-to-1. So if the paper is legal tender, so too is its digital format, meaning therefore that if I need to exchange this and demand the paper equivalent, somebody can say, well, no. You have to get the same representation as you would get from its physical format. And I think education and usage is what's going to help clarify this, because persons would be able to understand, well, this is the same as that. It's the same as having your bank account. You log on online, and what you're seeing online is the equivalent as if you had the physical money, except that it's in a digital format. That's digital money. When we refer to digital currency, we refer to the money that you have in your bank account. We refer to the money that you access using your ATM card. It's the same money, except that when you use your ATM card, you convert it from digital format, from electronic format to physical format. And it is the same sort of transitory, that same sort of easy exchange that you must get when we are referring to digital currency versus cryptocurrency.
The EC digital currency does not mean that the ECCB is eliminating cash. In fact, both the EC digital currency and cash will coexist in our financial sphere.
I want to make it pellucidly clear. The ECCB does not intend to eliminate the use of cash. And let me repeat this. The ECCB does not intend to eliminate the use of cash. Cash has its convenience and will continue to play a very important role in our economy, and that for the foreseeable future. That said, the ECCB is committed to reduce our region's use of cash and checks. And you may ask why. Well, here's why. In the ECCU, about 80% of all payments are effected using cash or checks. When we survey our payments landscape, we cannot help but conclude that payments are still too slow and too expensive. Many of us know only too well the high costs associated with certain banking services. Although a full-scale analysis of the social costs of physical cash in the ECCU has not yet been carried out, it is indisputable that the costs of cash services, including transporting, storing, insuring, securing, are extremely high. Invariably, these high costs are passed on to the consumer. Many people do not recognize that, but that is what happens. And it is also obvious to us that many businesses do not recognize the true and full cost of cash services. This reality, however, means And given the fact that the informal sector is so important in our region, means that the informal sector bears a disproportionate burden in respect of the cost of cash. The reality is that actors in the informal sector bear a significant burden of the cost inefficiencies of cash transactions. Lest we become too critical of small businesses, we should also acknowledge that they too face real constraints. For example, some of our businesses are required to pay as much as 3.5% on every credit card sale. That exorbitant charge reduces and in some instances removes the incentives for small businesses to offer their customers electronic options such as credit cards and debit cards. And if they do, it limits their ability to offer customers discounts because of the costs that they're paying to provide the card services. They experience what is sometimes referred to as financial frictions.
In an effort to reduce these financial frictions, the ECCB and BIT Inc. reached an agreement to develop and pilot a digital version of the EC dollar, and thus the journey began.
BIT first approached the ECCB about 2 years ago with the idea of a digital EC dollar. As we continued thinking about the transformation of the ECCU, we became intrigued by the possibility of a digital fiat currency for our region. At that time, we were finalizing our strategic plan, and we made a decision to test and learn more about this idea through a pilot. 5 months after the launch of our plan, we signed an MOU with BIT in March of last year to collaborate on this idea, and so our journey to this pilot began. The decision of the ECCB to partner with BIT was premised on several considerations, including our shared values in respect of innovation for development, our vision for a digitally integrated region, BIT's capacity, technical and financial, and BIT's Caribbean identity, both in terms of its presence as well as its people.
The ECCB Central Bank Digital Currency Pilot involves a securely minted and issued digital version of the EC dollar. Sybil Welch, chairperson of the ECCB FinTech Working Group, outlines how the pilot will be rolled out and implemented.
The project would have 12 months of development, and this development is iterative. We have had 8 months to date of engaging stakeholders, be it financial institutions, government institutions, consumers, professional bodies, peer central banks. And we will continue that because based on those consultations, we've had requirements. Now you want to validate those requirements, test those requirements. So in the development of the solution, every point of that development is about making sure that we are meeting the needs of the persons who will be using that digital currency, the platform, the design, the psychology of how it's going to be used, how people want to engage with the digital wallets, what sort of interfaces they're looking for. And all of these issues, how the merchant's needs will differ from the consumer needs, how the financial institution needs would differ from others. And so we have to make sure that we combine these needs into a solution that meets all of the approved expectations and hopes of this. So we'll be developing, it's iterative, and throughout the iteration, we'll be consulting representatives in all of the islands that represents these groups, households, households will be consumers, merchants, financial institutions, non-bank financial institutions, digital wallet service providers. You want to be able in that lab test to really test the usability and other functionalities before you go into a live deployment. And so it's a continuous education, continuous sensitization of the communities across the region, not only those who are going to be in the pilot. We want to emphasize that while a pilot is a limited deployment, and so you can't go to all 8 member countries at the same time, that we will be having the lab test in all parties, all countries will be able to participate. When we get to the live deployment, you want to have a limited sphere around which you're going to deploy that so that you can control, so that you can look at it, manage it, troubleshoot, rectify before you go mass live. And so that will be 6 months for live deployment and 12 months for development. Throughout it, we'll be engaging the population from the ECCB's website, from webinars online, from direct going into the communities. We're going to get into the churches. We're going to get into the schools. We're going to get in at the market. We're going to get in the business associations, the farmers associations, professional groups, all of these groups, so they understand this is their project. It is for them. They are the reason why we're doing this. And so they have to feel the project. And so we're inviting everybody to come on board. You'll be hearing in short time. We're looking for persons who can actually, say to us, we want to be trained on this thing so we can be DXC brand ambassadors going into our schools, our communities, and our churches and talking about this and giving our perspectives. Those perspectives will be really taken on board by the ECCB as we develop this.
I say the time to act is now. I issue a clarion call for partnership. We invite all of our banks, financial institutions, non-bank financial institutions to join us in this endeavor, to make their wallet services available so that we can test and learn from this experience. We also invite our telecommunication service providers and other technology companies to join in this effort, as together we develop a digital ecosystem from which our region can reap huge digital dividends. Most importantly, we invite the citizens and residents of the ECCU to share our views, to share your views on how this pilot can best serve you and serve and advance our development. And now, with laser-like focus, let us move forward with the EC Digital Currency Pilot Project, determined to make a significant difference in the lives of the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union.
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
It's coming!
We're almost at the end of Season 9 of ECCB Connects. Our final program airs Wednesday, 27th March 2019. While we're on break, be sure to stay connected with us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Join us in May 2019 for new and informative programs. ECCB Connects, who we are, what we do, and how we serve you.
We've come to the end of this episode of ECCB Connects. Join us next week for the final episode of Season 9, where we'll continue our discussion on the EC Digital Currency Project. Thanks for watching, and join us next week.
Alrighty, folks, let me tell you, I thought I'd seen it all. I hadn't. I'm seeing something here which I cannot explain. Those of you who've been watching us on Facebook this morning have been complaining that the feed vanished, okay? Well, I cannot deny that, because when I tried looking at the program on my PCs, on my Mac over there and on my PC over here, I am unable to see any video, okay? No video. However, I am seeing the comments from Facebook. Can you explain that? I can't, but that's not the end of it. Over here, take a look. On my smartphone, there's the video on my page on Facebook. Can't explain. Anyhow, the program is going to be up on Facebook. It's also going to be on YouTube later on this afternoon. Now, having said that, I did tell you at the top of the program this morning that we were going to have 2 segments from the ECCB. But in the interest of time, we cut that to 1, and we'll show you the other one at some other time, okay? Now, I also mentioned to you this morning that I want to talk a little bit about tourism. It seems to me, my dear friends, that the 2018-2019 cruise ship season has come to a screeching halt. Yesterday, we had a visit from the Celebrity Silhouette with a capacity of just under 2,900 guests. Take a look. I happened to be downtown doing some groceries, pulled out my Android, and grabbed some footage. Watch this. There she is, the Celebrity Silhouette. That shot was taken from the bus terminal. Margaret Francis says here, yep, I'm seeing Facebook also. Okay. Well, Margaret, I'm not even seeing anything on Facebook. But I'm seeing the well, I'm not seeing video, but I am seeing the comment. Did you know that we had trains in Grenada? Take a look at this. This is one of the attractions here. Cruise ships especially. This is one of the trains they got around there. Mom, I want one of these for my birthday. Look at that, okay? How'd you like to ride around with that? Taking a look there inside the mall on Melville Street. Pretty bare, even though there was supposedly 2,900 people. And a couple of days ago, I think it was on Wednesday, I was down at GRENADA'S. You can see that cruise ship in the background out there. Despite the fact that that ship had over 2,000 people, take a look. Pretty bare on GRENADA'S beach. But here's the good news. Take a look at this. For those of you who like grapes, oh man. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Look at that. Those trees are laden with blossoms. And in maybe a week or so, you're going to have an awful lot of grapes on the beach. That's one thing I really love about GRENADA'S Beach. One of the things I love about that beach. Grapes. Grapes. By the way, on Wednesday I was down there and got burnt. Now, seems to me that the current cruise ship season, which officially ends on the 25th of this month, has been a bit of a mixed bag. Allow me for a moment to share with you some figures from the Grenada Tourism Authority. According to what they sent to me, in January we were expecting 86,686 passengers. In February, that number dropped by about 19,000 to 67,629 passengers. In March, it dropped even more to 57,000. That's another 10,000 drop. 57,914 passengers. Now, today happens to be the end of March. So, what are they predicting for April? 28,293. Now, that's less than half of what they were expecting in March. Now, when you add the figures, when you add the number of passengers who supposedly arrived in October, November, and December, the 2018-2019 season will have yielded 370,286 276 passengers. Granted, I have been impressed by the number and sizes of the cruise ships I have seen calling here from my balcony outside there during the early part of this year. But since January, the numbers of visitors has steadily declined. You just heard them. In January, 86,000. February, 67,000. March, 57,000. And now, April, 28,000. Less than half of what we had this month, or supposedly had. And that's not even a third of what we had in January. These figures, by the way, have been provided by the Grenada Tourism Authority and are based, this is important, and this is the point I'm trying to make, they are based on the assumption that every cruise ship comes in here with a full house, full load of passengers. I doubt that. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt. And so, according to the GTA, by the end of April, we will have had, as I mentioned earlier, 370,276 passengers. But I can guarantee you, mark my words, that when the official figures are released at the end of the season, you will hear that more than 500,000 cruise passengers came to Grenada in the 2018-2019 season. Mark my words. They did it last season as well. The figure they have already provided me with is 510,625. Yeah. Now, how do they arrive at that? Some of these ships have more than 1,000 crew members. And according to the GTA, during the season, that's from October last year to April, end of next month, there will have been 140,349 crew members visiting Grenada and Carriacou. So, what does the GTA do? They add the number of crew members to the ship's capacity. You hear me? To arrive at that more than 500,000 mark of 510,625. Get it? Yeah. Pilgrims. 1. Not every passenger gets off these ships when they pull into port. Not every passenger. Not every cruise ship comes in here full. Since passengers remain on board, crew members have to remain on board to take care of them as well. 3. A cruise line does not bring a new crew every time it calls here. And several of these ships make calls, they make several calls. So the same crew is being counted over and over and over and over again to arrive at the 140,000 plus that you're hearing about. I thought I'd give you some food for thought. Enough said about the more than 500,000 visitors you will be hearing about soon, just after the season ends. By the way, the season ends April 25th. Yeah. Okay, folks. Now it's time for Georgie Porgy to pull the curtain down. Once again, terribly sorry that we've lost the Facebook feed there. Don't know what happened. These things happen. Let's leave you with a parting scripture from the second book of Timothy, chapter 3, verses 1 to 5. But mark this: there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. Have nothing to do with such people. That reading, folks, from second book of Timothy, chapter 3, verses 1 to 5. And my dear friends, on that note, Georgie Porgy is going to pull the curtain down. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and thank you very much to my guest. That was fun this morning, wasn't it? Here's an invitation. Join me tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and every weekday morning this coming week, by God's grace, for the next edition of Good Day Grenada. So long, pilgrims.